Hi everyone, and welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Elsie.
So, do you know much about the city of Venice in Italy, Elsie?
I've heard it's a very beautiful city, but I've never been there before. What about you, Pat?
I've also never been there, but I do know it's built on islands and water, and some of the canals are supposed to be a bit dirty these days. I also know that once merchants from Venice traveled all over the world. The Venetians, which is people from Venice, were some of the greatest sailors and travelers of the past. Marco Polo, he was a Venetian.
Oh, okay. Anything else?
It's home to St. Mark's Square, which is one of the most beautiful places in Italy. It's got wonderful old buildings around it, including St. Mark's Church, and there's a big bell tower at one end.
Keep going.
There's the carnival, a big celebration event in February, I think, with street parades and things, and people in old-fashioned clothes and cool masks and stuff.
Any more?
Probably, but too much more, and I'll start getting into history, which might be too boring. Besides, this article isn't really about the history of Venice, it's about a modern-day problem.
That's right. After all, our article is called The City of Venice, a Sinking Ship.
Of course, Venice isn't a ship, but we can describe anything as a sinking ship that's in a lot of trouble and that there seems to be no way to help before it's ruined completely.
But surely things in Venice aren't as bad as that.
Well, we should read through the article to find out what the problem is and what, if anything, people are trying to do about it. This is a 2-day article, so let's read through day 1.
Reading.
The City of Venice, a sinking ship? Venice, Italy has a problem. Every year, the historic port's beautiful bridges and romantic 16th century churches drop slightly further into the water. The floating city is sinking. What's worse, if something doesn't change, it could be gone within the next 100 years. This is a problem that's been bothering the Venetians since the beginning of the 5th century. The city was built on platforms on top of wooden beams stuck into the bed of a shallow lagoon. These platforms gave the city its unique layout. However, they were so heavy that they began pushing down on the sand below and caused the city to start sinking. Though this design problem causes Venice to flood frequently, it has survived thanks to the clever work of local engineers. However, the city's future is now under threat from something they can't fix: climate change. Some experts believe that sea levels in the area will rise by 50 centimeters by 2100. If this happens, the floating city will disappear entirely.
The article starts by saying, Venice, Italy has a problem.
今天的文章开头就告诉我们，水都威尼斯有一个问题。The article then talks about what this problem is. It says, every year, the historic port's beautiful bridges and romantic 16th century churches drop slightly further into the water.
That is not good. But let's talk about the word port. A port is a town or city with a harbour or any other area of water where ships can load or unload people and things. Most cities on the coast are ports, so Geelong, Kaohsiung, Hualien, these are all ports. London isn't on the coast, but as the River Thames, which is wide, flows through it, ships can get there, which makes London a port. Here's an example. The ship came into port in the morning and the sailors started unloading the goods.
The ship came into port 代表这艘船进港了，所以我们说 port 这个字呢是港口或是海港城市的意思。那这边呢，我们就把 port 当作海港城市来解释咯。每年呢，这个海港城市的桥和教堂都会有个问题。Does this mean the whole city is dropping slightly into the water?
Yes, this isn't happening really fast. The city is just sinking slightly further each year. Slightly means a very small amount or to a very small degree. So if the weather is slightly cold, it's only a little bit cold. If you're slightly late, you're maybe only 5 or 10 minutes late.
所以 slightly 这个副词代表稍微、略微，也可以说成 a little bit。那再来我们看到一个副词叫做 further， 它用来形容程度，表示慢慢地、一点一点地更沉入水里面。那在这边呢，它是一个副词修饰副词的用法。每年这个海港城市的桥和教堂都一点一点地慢慢沉入水中。Next, the article says the floating city is sinking.
So to float means to be able to sit on the surface of some water and not go under it.Some things float because they're very light, or because they are flat, or because of their design. Like a ship can float because of the way it's built, and because there's lots of water under it. It's easier to float on a lot of water, especially if that water has salt in it. Here's another example. I dropped a stick in the river and watched it float under the bridge.Float 这个动词代表浮起或是漂浮。那本文中呢，我们看到 floating 在 float 后面加了 ing， 它其实是一个现在分词作为形容词的用法哦，表示漂浮的。所以这个漂浮的城市，也就是水都威尼斯，正在下沉 ，it's sinking.Yes, and this sinking is just part of Venice's problems. The article says, what's worse, if something doesn't change, it...meaning the city, could be gone within the next 100 years. We use the phrase what's worse in the same way as the phrase what's more, so to add extra information. However, with what's worse, the information is always bad and worse than what we already said.What's worse 可以带出更糟的状况。那如果什么事都不做的话，100年内水都威尼斯会消失哦。Next, the article says this is a problem that's been bothering the Venetians since the beginning of the 5th century. 那这个问题呢，自从5世纪开始就一直困扰着威尼斯人。So remember, I said in the introduction that a Venetian is a person from Venice. So like British is person from Britain, Venetian is a person from Venice. So this part of the article takes us back to how the city began. We see that the city was built on platforms on top of wooden beams stuck into the bed of a shallow lagoon.Now, this is quite a complicated sentence. We started it with a clause in the passive voice. The city was built. Passive voice uses a form of the be verb plus a PP form of another verb. And we use the passive voice when the action is more important than the people who carried out the action. For example, the dog is fed every day.This is a passive voice sentence. We don't need to know who fed the dog, just that feeding takes place. Now, in that sentence, we also used a reduced relative clause, platforms on top of wooden beams. Now, this means platforms that were stuck on top of wooden beams. But we've removed some obvious words from the sentence to make it easier to read.
今天的英文练功房呢，我们要做句子上面的解析哦。我们先看到课文当中前半段，他说 The city was built on platforms. 这是一个被动态的用法，刚刚 Pat 老师有提到。那被动态当然最简单的写法就是用一个 be 动词，后面再加上动词的第三态，也就是所谓的过去分词。所以呢，我们给一个例句咯。The dog was fed by my mother this morning. 狗狗今早被我妈妈给喂食了。那我们看到 be 动词 was 带出喂食这个动作的第三态，也就是 fed, fed 这个字。再来呢，我们看到文章里头的句子哦。The city was built on platforms on top of wooden beams stuck into the bed of a shallow lagoon. 这边我们看到 stuck into， 在这边呢，它是由关系子句简化而成的分词片语的用法。那还原原句，我们可以说 前面省略，后面接上 on top of wooden beams that were stuck into the bed of a shallow lagoon。 所以当我们看到关系代名词配上 be 动词的时候，可以将两者一同省略，留下现在分词或者是过去分词。那课文当中呢，我们看到它留下的是过去分词，也就是 stuck 这个字。另外再给同学们一个例句哦 The girl that is standing over there is my classmate。 站在那里的女孩是我的同学。这一句我们也可以做省略，变成 The girl standing over there is my classmate。 那这边留下的是现在分词 standing。
Now, we have a few other things to look at in that sentence. One is the phrase on top of. Now, this is a prepositional phrase, so it describes where two things are in relationship to one another. The platforms are on top of the beams, so they're above them and they are touching them. Another example could be, the cat is on top of the desk, which would mean it's sitting or standing on it.
On top of 代表在某物之上，那这边还看到一个字叫做 beam. What does it mean?
Yeah, we should look at the word beam, B-E-A-M. A beam is a long, thick piece of square wood or metal that is used to support the roof or floor of a building. Beams are good at carrying heavy weights, so they're very important in construction, building, all of those kinds of things. Here's an example.The builders of the church added several extra beams to stop its roof from falling down.
Beam 这个字呢，代表建筑物里头你会看到的梁，或我们说横梁也可以。那我们这边说到的是 platforms on top of wooden beams， 代表是在木梁上面的平台。So that's how Venice was built on a lagoon.
That's right. And a lagoon is a large area of salt water that's separated from the sea by a wall of sand or a wall of rocks. Now, the word lagoon can also be used to mean a small lake near a larger lake, and you'll find that use is quite common in the US and in Australia.
所以我们说 lagoon 就是细湖，或是解释为环礁湖也是可以的。那这个城市啊，也就是 Venice， 它被建在木梁的平台上。那木梁在哪边呢？在细湖的底部。
Okay, so it's a complicated sentence, but it explains what Venice is. A bunch of buildings built on platforms, on beams, in the water. It's not like a normal city built on land. And as we see in the article,These platforms gave the city its unique layout. The word unique means very different from anything else. We can also use the word to mean very special. So in the original meaning of very different, we could say all humans are unique. We're different from one another. We could also say this unique book is written on pages that can be used to clean water.Unique
这个形容词呢是独特的。那这边我们说啊 Venice has a unique layout. What's layout?
Well, something's layout is the way all of its parts are arranged. So when we talk about a city's layout, we mean how the streets and buildings are organized. Of course, Venice is on all of these platforms and little islands, so it's very different from most other cities.Layout 代表的是城市的布局或是设计 But you can see why this design maybe wasn't going to be so great for heavier buildings with more things in them. That's right. As the article says, however, they, so the platforms, were so heavy that they began pushing down on the sand below and caused the city to start sinking.That's why. 因为承载太多重量了，这个建筑在西湖之上的城市就开始下沉。Next, the article says, though this design problem causes Venice to flood frequently, it has survived thanks to the clever work of local engineers. The word frequently means often or on a regular basis. It's the adverb form of the word frequent.We could say in Taipei, it rains frequently. Here's another example. Stephen is a healthy person, so he goes to the gym frequently.
Frequently 这个副词代表经常地、频繁地，用来修饰前面的动作。像刚刚的例句里面，它就用来修饰前面 goes to the gym 去健身房的动作。好了，那回到文章里面，这边在说的是，由于这样的设计，威尼斯很常淹水。Most cities are badly damaged when it floods, but Venice has survived.
And this is thanks to clever engineers. We use the phrase thanks to show who is responsible for something, and usually to say that they deserve some credit.
Thanks to 这个 to 是个介系词哦，所以同学们要特别注意，后面你只能加上名词或是动名词，解释为由于多亏。所以我可以说 Thanks to Pat's help, I finished my work earlier yesterday. 因为有他，我昨天能够比较早完成我的工作。那回到文章来，幸亏有聪明的工程师，这个城市并没有因为淹水而造成很大的破坏。But like many places close to the sea, Venice is facing big problems.
That's right. The article says, however, the city's future is now under threat from something they can't fix.They here just means clever engineers, and the thing they can't fix is climate change. The word threat is used as a noun to mean some kind of danger. We can also use it when someone makes a threat. They say a bad thing might or will happen if you don't do what they want. The phrase under threat means in danger. So Venice is under threat from climate change, which means it's in danger.From climate change. Here's another way to use threat. The dark clouds off to the east held the threat of rain.
Threat 这个名词代表恐吓、威胁。如果我们看到 be under threat 代表的是某人受到威胁或某物受到威胁，也就是他可能受到伤害。再来我们看到 climate change 气候变迁是我们世界上碰到的问题。那因为气候变迁，威尼斯跟许多城市一样受到威胁。So this goes back to Venice being underwater in 100 years.
Yes, the article says some experts believe that sea levels in the area will rise by 50 centimeters by 2100, or I guess we could say 2100.
Sea levels 就是所谓的海平面，所以有一些专家相信哦，到了2100年的时候，海平面会上升50公分。And the first day of the article finishes with the consequences of this. If this happens, the floating city will disappear entirely.Yeah,
that would be a big problem. 50 centimeters doesn't sound like much, but you'd actually find it covers a lot of people's streets and the bottoms of people's houses. So in that case, no one could live in Venice.
Yes, and I think maybe Taiwan will disappear.Taiwan's
got a lot of mountains. It could be okay in the middle, but a lot of the bits
okay in the middle.
Around the edge could be in trouble if climate change continues and sea levels rise. So we will find out what people in Venice are trying to do about this problem in part 2 of our article tomorrow. But right now, it is time for today's For You Chat
question.For You Chat.
So the chat question kind of relates to a comment Elsie made at the end of our teaching, which is, what are some ways that climate change could be bad for Taiwan? Discuss them, so discuss the ways.
I think maybe Taiwan will face the same problem like Venice. Because the rising of the sea levels, Taiwan might be sinking.
Yeah,
But like you said, we have mountains.
Yeah, it's the coastal areas, and Taiwan isn't built on platforms, so it won't sink. But I think of places like the harbour in Geelong or along the Love River in Kaohsiung. The areas around there could certainly be in a lot more trouble.
Yeah, and the weather problem.
Right.
Because
more typhoons.
Yeah, more typhoons, and I think it's a lot hotter than before.
Yeah, I can't really tell. I've been here for a while, but compared
You
to
think
where
it's always hot.
Yeah, compared to where I come from, Taiwan is always hot, really hot in the summer. I think another climate change problem, I mean, it's related to the kind of pollution problems that have been talked about in Kaohsiung and Tainan over the last sort of year or two. People talking about the bad air. I know a lot of areas up around Taipei get bad air as well. I have a friend who often posts on Facebook when the air quality is really low. Says, check this out. Wear masks today. So I guess that kind of thing will probably become more frequent if we don't do something about at least the pollution side of climate change.
And the pollution will surely influence the weather.
Right, yeah. We could end up getting either more typhoons or typhoons coming at different times of the year. Like, people expect typhoons kind of from July to September, right? But there was almost a typhoon in October. It missed Taiwan, but really did some damage in Japan. And that was a really heavy typhoon. If that had hit Taiwan, there would have been a lot of trouble, a lot of mess. A lot of danger. So if typhoons suddenly start appearing at all times of the year, that's going to affect a lot of the way people live. And then it's the people in the mountains who will be having as much trouble because of landslides and things like that. There's also going to be, I guess, problems with rain, not having enough rain, so people can't quite grow enough food. Climate change is just bad news on every possible front, which is why people should do something about it. Okay, that is all we've got time for today, but we will be back tomorrow to look at the climate change problems affecting Venice and what Venice and other people are trying to do about these problems. We'll talk to you then. Bye for now.
Bye.
The City of Venice, a sinking ship? Venice, Italy has a problem. Every year, the historic port's beautiful bridges and romantic 16th century churches drop slightly further into the water. The floating city is sinking. What's worse, if something doesn't change, it could be gone within the next 100 years. This is a problem that's been bothering the Venetians since the beginning of the 5th century. The city was built on platforms on top of wooden beams stuck into the bed of a shallow lagoon. These platforms gave the city its unique layout. However, they were so heavy that they began pushing down on the sand below and caused the city to start sinking. Though this design problem causes Venice to flood frequently, it has survived thanks to the clever work of local engineers. However, the city's future is now under threat from something they can't fix: climate change. Some experts believe that sea levels in the area will rise by 50 centimeters by 2100. If this happens, the floating city will disappear entirely.
Vocabulary Review. Port. Kaohsiung is Taiwan's largest port, and many locals there work in shipping. Float. The leaves fell from the trees and floated on the surface of the water. Beam. The room was old and traditional, with wooden beams supporting its ceiling. Unique. This painter's art is completely unique. No one else uses the style that he uses. Frequently. Anna frequently goes to the market to buy food. She's there almost every day. Threat. This type of animal is under threat from hunting. We must do something to protect it.
智慧小补帖
Slightly. Lagoon. Layout.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net